evening in 2021. What a year it's been already, and we're only in February. I wanted to ask you first, Philly, what have you done in the 10 minutes running up to this to prepare to speak?
Oh my gosh, the pressure. What did I do? I filled my bottle of water up and I stroked the dog. Yeah, I gave Arrow a good pet, good scrub down, and that
Stop
calmed me
rubbing
down.
Arrow in my face.
Sorry. What did you do?
Well, I actually did, this sounds very hippie, but I did a 7-minute yoga with Adrian to calm my system down. And then I
Nice.
sprayed on some Stella McCartney because, you know, good vibes. And
Good
yeah,
smells.
I had a chat to my friend Brian. So that was a nice intro. So yeah, cool. That's how we prepare for talks. Welcome everybody again. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you how Philly and I met and how this talk came about, just to give you a bit of context. So I joined the London Java Community, or LJC, back last year, and that was with the intention of getting into speaking. And in doing so, it promotes women speakers in technology, which is very relevant to what we're talking about today. Through seeing Philly on a talk, it turned out she got assigned to me as a buddy because I was 2 talks ahead of her in my wisdom. And I've been a terrible buddy, it seems, because I've literally had to drag her on here as a co-speaker to get her to do a talk. So at least I've done it. I can check that box. I had done a talk on diversity, a small one, and then a larger one in time, and bias in tech. And those things are really at the center of my thinking about how we relate to each other and to tech. So that's how it all started. And I thought that instead of me doing a D&I talk on here, that it would be better to have more voices and a really great voice coming from Philly to talk about D&I together. So I'm going to introduce Philly to you first of all, because she's awesome and you're going to want to hear all about her. So Philly is an award-winning engineering manager, and she told me not to say that she was a master of engineering, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm a rebel. I knew it. I know there's revenge. And a chartered engineer with the Institution of Engineering and Technology. It basically means Philly has more letters after her name than the letter A. Very impressive. She's an advocate for women in STEM. She holds a position on the 2020 Makers Women in Software Power List, which is terrifying, the thought about being on the power list. I love it. She is Women in Tech Excellence Awards 2020 finalist for 2 categories, not just one, for 2. So she's the tech in the category of Tech Leader of the Year SME and also Transformation Leader of the Year SME. In her spare time, she mentors and coaches within the engineering sector. She's involved in multiple engineering initiatives, building relationships with others to increase representation and visibility in the tech industry. Philly is passionate about giving back to her community and developing new ways to show young women how to break the glass ceiling in STEM. Most importantly, though, Philly is a truly wonderful human being, and it's really an honor to know her. Her hobbies include crafts such as quilling and calligraphy. And as she mentioned, she's always taunting me with Arrow. She has a very handsome dog, which she's recently adopted. And he might even come up to give her a hug, hopefully. Maybe not, maybe during the call. And I intend fully to dognash him once the lockdown lifts. So I look forward to collaborating with you, Philly, long into the future. And I'm looking forward to sharing thoughts with you today. So over to you, Philly. This is a chance for you to schmooze me.
That was the nicest introduction ever, and I'm going to get some payback by talking about all the cool things you've gone up to.
No.
Yes, I'm going to get started. So Mag was born in Ireland and she spent her early years by the sea. I'm already jealous. Imagine all that fresh air. And she studied a Bachelor's of Science in Applied Sciences and Software Engineering in Dublin. And then she moved to London to become a technologist. In her impressive 20-year career, Mag has been a coder, but keenly involved in the process improvement until she realized that nurturing leadership was just for her. And I totally agree on that as well. Leaders Who Coach from Better Conversations brought her to a stronger coaching style of leadership, and she really feels coaching is a way to bring equity and listen deeply to individuals. Recently, listen to this, she went in all in, and graduated with an advanced diploma in personal leadership and executive coaching. All of this while she's been coping with long COVID since July. Is there anything this woman can't do? Come on now. Mag clearly feels her purpose is to empower others, especially those who may have less privilege than she does. She admits she's been on a journey this last year and has had many awakenings, but still has so much to learn. And for me, I think, Mag, you are incredible, you're kind, and you're inspiring. So I hope you shared a link to your LinkedIn. If not, everyone have a look at her. She's just amazing.
Billy, you rascal. Thank you so much. There's a lot of love in the room between us two, and yeah, thank you. So I'm going to get you started on a hard question, Philly. What does diversity and inclusion mean to you? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it started.
Let's go.
The first word that comes to mind is like being authentic and being yourself. But I think it's really important to mention that you should feel safe to be yourself as well. So that whole safety aspect of it is something else I think about.
Okay. And I think people would take that as the basic of what someone should have when they're at work, but it's not always the case. So can you paint a more detailed picture to give understanding to me and everyone as to, you know, how it feels not to be able to do that, or the challenges?
Yeah, of course. So examples back when we were all traveling to the office, for me, it just meant that I could just show up to work. I could be natural, I could be myself, and I wouldn't be worrying if I was going to be judged by the way I was acting. So I didn't have the extra stress of thinking about if I needed to change my personality to suit the workplace, like dimming my shine, so to speak, changing my humor and all those weird quirks, all those things that make you you. Another example would be changing your accent, or your accent, your tone. And if English isn't your first language, a lot of people can worry about their accent, and that can really take a toll on like your working day. So that would be another good example. And personally, I've been roasted so many times in previous jobs about my telephone voice, and we all had one, and I'm sure people in this room have had a telephone voice too.
I have similarly been roasted about the telephone voice. Yeah. I turn into tech support. I'm like, how can I help you? What seems to be your problem today? And my friend's like, you're at work, aren't you? And I'm like, yes. I don't know where that comes from, Philly.
It's part of the journey. You start off thinking that you have to change yourself, but I don't do the telephone voice that much anymore. I'm just my rough self. So take me as I am, but it takes time to get to that point. And to be honest, if it's not your voice or your accent, it's going to be something else. So for me as a Black woman, the things that come to mind is hair and appearance. And so in engineering and technology, like the fields that there isn't much representation anyway. When you start your career, you just feel like it's going to start off as a battle. So you apply for roles, you get interviews, and you think, can I actually wear my natural hair? Can I wear my, my tight, kinky, curly hair? And will this put me at a disadvantage for the interview? Will I be judged differently for the natural texture of my hair or the style? And this is something that is just, obviously it's not cool, because you want people to be celebrated for being themselves, but in a lot of cases, people are actually penalized. So yeah, overall, those are the first couple of examples that come to mind.
Yeah, and I mean, completely, like all those individual things that make us us, it's vital to be able to share those. So you know really authentically who you're dealing with, who's sitting with you across the table in both directions. When that doesn't go well, you put everybody in a really bad place. And like, how does that show up then in terms of when it goes wrong?
When it goes wrong, gosh, there's so many examples. But for me, like in an ideal workplace, you'd want to feel safe and secure that you can flag up anything that goes wrong. So if you see any injustices in the workplace, you want to be able to think, okay, I'll be able to report this and it will be dealt with immediately. But this is not always the case. And some of us on this call, might have been in those situations where the company or the people that you're working with have just made you feel like you're overreacting. And so when that happens, when you haven't got the support, then you just start to doubt yourself. And then that just links to you changing who you are as a person, doubting yourself, and potentially feeling that you're not welcome or wanted in that workplace. So that's really important to flag up that support is key. And so for me, diversity and inclusion is important because you get to work with a diverse group of people. Because of this, you have different people from different backgrounds represented in like different layers of the organization. And because of that, then you can see like yourself, people that look like you in different parts of the business. And then that hand in hand, it improves your career progression because you're thinking, okay, I'm represented here. I can see people that look like me. I don't feel alone. And so you start to think, I can stay here a bit longer. I care about my job a bit more. And it's just a ripple effect. So yeah, I've definitely seen that in my career as well. So when I think about all the different roles I've been in, I can definitely think of a theme or a pattern. So for any teams that had like greater diversity, I found it like so easy to be myself. And then even if the teams weren't diverse, but they were very inclusive and collaborative, I felt very confident because I knew that everyone's like attitude and energy was in the right place. So once I start to feel at home with these teams, I'm not worrying about, what am I wearing? What do I look like? I'm going to be judged. I'm focusing on just having fun at work. Because I'm having fun and living my best life, I'm showing my best self, which means that my work and performance improves as well, like as a result of that. So that was a lot, but to
It's
tie it all
great.
up,
It's
right?
a beautiful, yeah.
It's just the whole mood. Everything affects like every step. And so it's diversity and inclusion means that individuals of, varied cultural backgrounds, experiences, abilities and skill sets, they're all respected. But I think it's really important to like put an emphasis on the fact that those differences should be celebrated. But you've got a vast amount of experience working with tech teams. So I'm going to pick your brain and ask you this question. You ready?
That's a side way to say that I'm really old, I think.
Oh my goodness, my bad.
Right?
I love
Oh.
you really. So my question is, what do you think a diverse and inclusive tech team looks like?
Okay. Well, I mean, you've said lots of the things, but I think that your last set of points there about when you were in your best state in teams was when the collaboration was high and you felt like you could show up as your authentic self. So that's something that I really try to embrace. I try to realize that a team is made up of many individuals, and I really feel as a leader that my job is to gel that community together. So to create a framework that allows people to feel psychological safety, to share, that the team adapts to everyone as we go. I mean, even things like, the agile methodology is all about us, going through a cycle, learning something, changing it for the next time. Like I really feel that's a great thing to embrace in life. So yeah, to kind of echo that, I really feel that I want the people on my team to show up as their authentic selves, to feel safe, to be able to bring what they have to the team and make the team better. So sort of like that we're greater than the sum of our parts. I want us, independent of our human characteristics, to really see each other really equally, whether it's, differences in personality, differences in age and experience, difference in country of origin and, behaviors, cultures, traditions, to be able to show up, whether it's gender, which is something, as women in tech and a lower percentage group of the whole tech industry, that is really important that women are represented. And gender itself is an area, that needs a lot of sensitivity at the moment as it's growing in the different definitions of gender. So I think that's a whole area to support and educate ourselves on, really try and empower everybody. Ethnic background, all the different experiences that we can bring from our ethnicity as well as our culture and our country of origin, it kind of all melts together, and you get this, person who is, from a group, but they're a total individual and they've had a different life experience, and they are the one on your team, and they're the one to empower and really make them feel that, they can join in. And the thing is, you want to harness all the goodness from that person. You want to see, what can you bring? How are you going to make our team better? How are you going to make our product better? It's exciting. It's really like, come on, get in here. We can have things like first language. You mentioned that, and how it can be difficult for people from other countries, accents, how fast you speak, how slow you speak. I mean, we do have to adapt to each other for sure, but not in a way that I liked what you said there, but it made me sad, not that you dim your light. I think that's a really good way of expressing it. you know, things like religious beliefs, cultures. You can show up with items that express all of those in a way that you don't feel judged or quashed down. Sexual orientation, that you can, you know, be treated the same as someone who has a different sex partner, you know, that we're considerate of all of the things that are different in our culture, whether we drink alcohol or not, the holidays we observe, the way we wear our hair. You mentioned hair, and I've got a lot of hair, you've got a lot of hair, and respect the curl, you know, you know,
Yes,
and
the
also
curse.
respect the straight, respect everything, respect blue hair, whatever. Everybody show up in a way that empowers them to be themselves. So I would really say that we, you know, show up equally. We're ready to care for each other. We're ready to show positive regard. I want collaboration on teams to be like positive and exciting and inclusive and happy and productive. That's really important. That as a leader is required for me to get a good product to market, for it to be effective. I want people to have each other's backs and really care about each other. And yes, for everyone to feel safe and valued. That helps to get everyone in their flow so that the conversations and the ideas just flow naturally, and really for us to get a deeper understanding of each other. I mean, that's really what life is all about, is just connections. I don't think there's, you know, much more that's greater than that fact. Um, so I guess we talked about, you know, the team part of it and the individual part. What about technology itself and the products that we create and the effect it has? Why is D&I important to technology?
What, what isn't important? Like, it's so obvious how important it is. Like, tech is always changing. Like, there's always something new happening, something groundbreaking, and you always hear the buzzwords like pushing for innovation and creativity. And so by saying that, we mean that we want to have as many viewpoints as possible so that we can create the right products and provide people with that. But it kind of makes no sense if you're making all these amazing products if you've literally discounted like global majorities. And so if your tech team actually lacks diversity, and if your tech teams aren't inclusive, then that's not really going to work, because you end up with an echo chamber style tech team where everyone thinks the same, acts the same, and this is the opposite of innovation and creativity. And so when you think about that situation, you really have to focus in particular on underrepresented groups. And so when you think about products, lots of products are purchased by individuals in these groups, but the companies and the teams developing these, they have little to no diversity or inclusion. So most of the time you literally have the wrong people in the room making these big decisions that impact the groups, like the individuals within these groups. And so, like I said, when you don't have diverse teams, your knowledge and ideas are limited. Because of that, you're not catering to other people's needs, and you're just making loads of mistakes. So it's like a very large impact that lack of diversity and inclusion has within tech. And so I think it's really important because the focus is getting the right people in the room making these decisions, all about the right people in the room, to be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah.
absolutely. Like, you know, that's really a mantra that we can all take away: are the right people in the room for this product, for this meeting, on this team. You know, users, are the users being represented in our research? It makes complete sense. You know, being technologists, yes, the mistakes are there. We make mistakes, and we want to reduce the amount of mistakes we make. We want to make good products. And I think that, you know, tech is always changing, and it's kind of exhausting at times how much it's changing. You know, you've got your code base. This new thing comes in, you're like, oh no, we have to use this because it's much more efficient. You've got to change all this code. We're constantly learning. We're constantly researching what somebody else has figured out as the solution to this problem. Our mindset is really evolving and, you know, solution based. And I'd like to think that in the tech industry, that gives us a base where we can really embrace diversity and inclusion. You know, it's a way that change is possible, change is embraced. So that's a hopeful start. I'm hoping about that. Mistakes wise, you know, when you think over technology, and which has traditionally in the last couple of decades been quite homogenous in terms of white male, we make mistakes like we send health products to market that don't cater for half the human population. I mean, you know, how would you solve that one, Philly, that exact example?
Once again, you need to put the right people in the room. So where were the women making those apps?
Where,
What were they?
exactly. Where were the women? Get the women in the room. You know, we've got stuff like facial recognition only working really for white faces. So obviously that homogeneous echo chamber is coming out there. And how do you solve that one, Philly?
Once again, the right people need to be in that room making the decisions.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So get the right
Key
people in
phrase.
there. Like it hurts me to think that a team can build, and I'm not attacking that team, but it hurts me to think that diversity doesn't exist in tech, that we can send products to market that don't recognize, for example, a Black person's face as a human face. It's a terrible, terrible mistake that we don't cater for women and fertility cycles in health products. I mean, fertility is slightly important to our continued existence on the planet. You know, we've got other kind of bias re-existing in products. We've got like home smart apps that are sort of female persona and they're quite servile. So we're kind of echoing a bias there. We, you know, talk about hiring. There are totally there are algorithms that are biased in gender on the hiring front. So it's really, really important to have the right people in the room. So AI is one of the things that is really part of our feature. And one of the things that I think about is there's the code, the algorithm, and then there's the data we feed it. So, you know, the data we feed it needs to be representative of all people. And also the people who are coding the algorithm need to put bias checks in the algorithm. So like both of those require the right people to be in the room. So I really do think that there is a huge sort of weight on our shoulders as technologists. You know, you think of people, I've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy in lockdown, and it's a lot mission critical. People are dying, operating tables, blood everywhere. You know, we think, okay, our job isn't that high stress, or, you know, sometimes maybe not that mission critical, but I do think that we have a duty to stop propagating bias that exists in the world into our technology. So I really think that the way to do that is to have broad and considered and equitable profits going live by teams that are diverse in their thoughts. So that's like, we've talked a lot about, you know, the products, we've talked about experiences, we've talked about people, we've talked about, you know, the companies and the environment. So what can we do right now?
Big questions. There's so much we can do. One of my favorite phrases is, you can't be what you can't see. I can't remember who said it, but I need to do some research so I can quote them. But in a lot of cases that is true. And so for us as individuals within the industry, especially individuals within like underrepresented groups in tech and engineering, it's literally our duty to share our knowledge and our experiences. So we should be doing things like this, talking about our knowledge and our experiences, sharing our journey, like how do we get into this like workspace? How do we get into this field? What's it like to actually work here? And really being honest and transparent and talking about the challenges we faced as well. You got to share the ups and the downs to paint the real true picture. And I think it's important because when we share these experiences, people can discover new opportunities. Literally, you're unlocking a new door, things that they didn't know were available to them. Now they're starting to think, oh, maybe I can do that career path because I'm seeing that familiar face, or I'm seeing a bit more representation, or just a little bit of information. It's making them aware of something that they weren't aware of before. So for me, and this is probably a bit biased because I love mentoring and coaching, but like having good role models, good leaders, good coaches like yourself, big shout out, obviously.
Back at you.
And then mentors around you and available to you is genuinely life-changing, because without these individuals, you're missing so much information. So it's down to us to really share that and help other people learn. But on a bigger scale, like companies can do so much. They can gather feedback from their employees and really like arrange workshops and open wider discussions to get feedback from employees. So ask questions like, what's the working culture of the organization? How do we support you? Do you have any suggestions about how we as a business can improve diversity and inclusion? And then I guess another step or another level would be really looking at the leadership teams or all the roles within the engineering sector and really looking at whose voices aren't represented within these areas and then asking yourselves why. Because a lot of the time it's good to focus on the hiring process. That is literally the main way that people come into your business. So putting in the time and the effort to find out if that process is biased anyway is a really good starting point. So looking at that process, looking at the stages involved, advertising on roles that actually like sites that target diverse and inclusive candidates will literally widen the diversity of the pool of talent like that applies to your roles, and that's really useful. Diversifying the actual interview panels themselves, because these are the people that the candidates will see. And so that is the representation of your company. So you really need to think about, okay, what are you trying to portray your company as? Is the panel as diverse as it could be? And then job descriptions. One of my favorite things is really taking the time to build that content. So removing biased language, tweaking the layout as well. Is it a checklist or is it a more open and welcoming format like must-haves and nice-to-haves, just a friendlier tone, which will invite more people to actually apply for it as well. By using certain phrases and layouts, we unintentionally reduce the diversity of candidates that apply. So you're literally shooting yourself in the foot by not doing your research and putting the time in. And another thing that can be quite simple and a lot of companies forget, in my experience so far, is the D&I statement within the job descriptions, or if that's too long, you can still have a statement to say company X encourages applications from underrepresented groups. So it's really about like taking the time, doing the research, asking probably some difficult questions and being honest with yourself. This is where the whole emotional intelligence comes in, because you need to be honest to find out what's really going on so that you can trigger that change. There's a lot of things. Sorry.
They're good things. And just you mentioned emotional intelligence there, and I noticed that you have a nice Medium article on that. So if anybody wants to check out Philly on Medium, that would probably be a good idea. In fact, actually, we're going to distill this talk into a Medium article at some point in the future. So if you want to follow us, you can get notified when that happens. So yeah, loads of really good, just to reflect back. So you're saying, you know, have a diversity and inclusion policy. Check your job descriptions are not filled with bias, make them more approachable in a way. Have a welcoming message to say we welcome global majorities. And that's actually an interesting turn of phrase that I only became aware of lately, and you used it, Philly, in your discussion, where we think of minorities, but actually they're global majorities in a lot of cases. And I think it switches the power balance, just the language on its own, and we all know that language is really important. So, so we've got the right people in the room hiring, we've got the right people in HR, we've got the right job descriptions, we've got a D&I policy, we've got the company listening to hires to see how their experience is going. So there's lots of listening there and feedback, and there's loops. I would add to that about regarding what we can do. And it's the listening, and it's listening to understand each other. In my sort of coaching experience over the last year, it's really about, you know, not listening to jump in or listening to put your opinion forward, but really listen, give that other person the respect and the time to be heard, and for you to really understand them. Be curious, ask the question. So did I get all of that? How are you feeling? You know, how's your experience? Really make it safe for the person to share. And that promotes just sharing in general and safety. And I think it's great. And another thing is to come to people with sort of an unconditional positive regard, to be like, I know you have the answer to this, let's work to get it. Like assuming that kind of a culture is your kind of norm is a lovely thing. And having the non-judgmental space where people can, you know, make mistakes. I mean, it's something in tech that we really sort of hold up a flag for, like, make a mistake, make it early. It's great. We learn, we fail fast, you know, we kind of embrace that. So I think it's the same in diversity and inclusion. It's almost, don't be too afraid, just try and get into this and learn from people who have more experience, and ask the people who are in the minority in the workplace, in the tech workplace, how we can make it a better workplace. But ultimately, going back to what you said earlier, it's about collaboration and joy and fun and having each other's backs and standing up for each other and really challenging those stereotypes and not accepting them and calling out when things don't feel comfortable, and equally just growing together, celebrating each other's traditions and style and what people eat, being curious. I think there's so much about us connecting and growing together and like having fun whilst being really respectful. That would kind of be what we can do now. And all of this stuff, especially all the things you mentioned, there are things that anybody can take on board right now at this point in time. It's sort of from hiring onwards. We're not even looking about changing the stereotype of genders or races or anything else. Like we're really just saying right now, companies, we can do this. What we change in the future as the stereotypes in society will come, but we can do this right now, and we can have, more visibility for, you said earlier, what you can see, you can't be. However, I think you're probably a bit of a rule breaker in that, Philly, and I think you might fill that space of what you can't see.
Too kind to me. You're making me blush. Stop it. Thank you.
Well, I think it's true.
None
So I think that's pretty much wrapped it up talk-wise. Philly, have you anything else you'd like to add to what we can do now?
I'm sure there's loads of things, but I've probably just got a brain melt and I can't think of anything but Medium. We'll write lots and lots of
we're going to write a checklist on Medium. So I want to say thank you, Philly. It's been amazing going on this journey with you to do this talk together. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been educational and fun and bonding. And thank you, Leahy, for inviting us today, and to Black Valley. It's wonderful that you're promoting Black people in tech and all the good work that you do, and the cross-pollinating with London Java community and bringing women who speak over from that group has been really good. And I guess thank you just all the people who are educating themselves and being empowering of each other and embracing each other's differences and having a good time and building ethical and conscientious technical products together. I think it's great. And Philly, final words from you.
I mean, it's polite to say thank you. So final words, most importantly, is thank you for everyone involved in organizing this. And Mag, thank you for dragging me, because like you said, it's been months that I've been meant to do a talk and I just haven't done it. So thank you. This is such an important topic. Obviously, it's super relevant to me and so many people that I know, and that's why I like to get involved. And it's been really fun. But also thank you to everyone that actually joined this Zoom call. I know you chose to spend your evening with us, so we feel special. Thank you. I hope you found it useful, hope you found it interesting. And final words would be takeaway. Don't dim your shine for the benefit of anyone else. That's like the key takeaway here for D&I. And on that note, I guess I'd like to invite you all to ask any questions or share your comments or thoughts on this topic. Have a little chat.
Thank you guys so much. I think there's a lot of value in everything that you've said. I took some notes myself. I'll hand it over to people to ask questions in a sec. Again, I just want to say thank you for the conversation. I think it's a very important one, and one that we all need to educate ourselves about. Even myself, as someone that's championing diversity in Black Valley, there's still other areas that I don't know enough about that I need to learn. I think that openness to learn needs to be something that's consistent across all level. Like no one has all the information. What I wanted to ask actually before we kind of open that question a bit more to the audience, I guess one thing that has become apparent recently, especially through our maybe Black Valley mentees, as people are thinking about applying for roles within tech, and most of our cohorts are women, and is that issue of negotiating salary. Would you say there's a gender pay gap in tech as a woman in comparison to your male counterparts? And how do you navigate that within the workspace that you find yourself?
I feel like you gestured to me, Mag. I was like, oh dear. That's a very good question. So where I work at the moment, they do put a lot of effort in making sure that the pay is the same and based on performance and how you're doing. So if you are on the same level, even if you do have any differences, such as, gender, race, etc., you still getting paid the same because it's about the output that you're doing based on like frameworks and things. But I do know that in different places I have worked previously, it has been the case. A lot of companies won't want you to discuss salaries. And so that from doing that, you start to find out that you're being paid less as a woman, even though you are on the same level, like a medium, like to senior engineer, for example. And then I think the way to tackle that is to have that conversation. So if a company says like, don't discuss your salary, discuss your salary. Keep it transparent so you can find out what's really going on. And from that, you can have conversations with your manager to then improve that. I don't want to give bad advice, but that is probably what I would do.
God, you rebel, Philly. Absolute
I'm a troublemaker,
rebel.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. I would tackle it from a slightly different approach then. I've been a sort of contractor, freelance, and run my own limited company for most of my career. So without having that company structure to sort of set out my salary, I have to decide it for myself. And I don't know how, because I didn't really come from a family who were corporate or went to university, but somehow I think that the main things I would say is believe in yourself, believe what your worth is, and stick to it. I know that is coming from a position of privilege, because I think I've got 20 years under my belt, and I'm sure I had to get there in terms of confidence. But if I'm doing the same work as anybody else, then I deserve the same or more pay. That's where I think you should go, is believe in yourself, have a vision, be clear on it. Don't be scared of talking about salary. Like, say, this is the range I'm thinking. How does that match with what you guys are offering? What are the opportunities for growth? What are the opportunities for education? Really ask the questions. It's not a dirty topic.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that you both threw a light with your answers. But I've got a few more questions, but I'll leave it to the audience for a bit. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Philly and Mag?
And I'd love to see your faces as well, to see the lovely people that are here tonight, if you're willing.
Okay, we've got Edwin. That's raised his hand. Go on, Edwin.
Hi, good evening. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think it's been very useful and quite informative, actually. My question is to do with your phrase, don't dim your shine for others. Do you think there is a fine line as to, I guess, I don't want to say making a complaint, but actually pointing out something that you feel uncomfortable about, and it being taken in as a complaint? If that question makes any sense at all.
That's a good question. So are you saying, how do you make it clear that it's not that it's not something personal and you don't like it, but it's actually something that's wrong, and you want to make sure that you're not seen as someone who's complaining?
Exactly that, yes.
That's really difficult, because even if you have the toolkit in yourself to do that and report something, you do need the support from your company in order to make you feel like it's not, you're not overreacting. And so I think the first thing would be to try and find a support system or figure out what the process is within the company. So if you've got people that might feel the same way about this thing that you want to talk about, it's good to bring them with you when you want to report it to HR or someone like that. And then also looking at the processes that HR has, because of course, if they haven't got anything in the pipeline to deal with certain topics like what you're going to talk about, then that's something that you have to raise to them as well. I've been in that situation where there haven't been HR processes, and that's something that I've had to flag in order to complain about the thing I wanted to complain about. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's lots of steps: getting a support group, checking if those processes are in place, and then from there you can see where your complaint can go. I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Yeah. Thank you very much.
And I would, Edwin, it would be a shame not to have seen your lovely face tonight. So thanks for coming on camera. But I would say as a leader, if I'm thinking of someone on my team having something that they're not happy about, then I would think it's part of my job to have that safe space that we've talked about, that you can come and talk to me. And basically, I want to know whenever anyone is unhappy, because if I don't know that, it erodes the team culture. So I'm very keen to hear those things and I'm open to them. And then, you know, I know we're human beings and we react, you know, the way we react, that we're built to react. But if you can really calm the defensiveness, so if I can take away that it's not an attack situation and I can learn something from you and we can improve the team, I think having that kind of culture is really important, but you have to build that culture together. And if you're in an environment where that's not the case, like a toxic environment where you feel that you can show up as your authentic self, that it's not safe for you to share ideas, that you feel things are going to be taken in the wrong way, that's really difficult. And, you know, some companies will not be able to cater to the needs of people challenging their systems, and others will hopefully learn and evolve from it. And, you know, especially because the IT sort of stats are so homogenous, we're going to have to learn all of each other's ways and how to work with each other in different cultures and different body language. And it's all going to take time, but we have to be willing to be non-defensive and open to that together. I don't know if that helps in answering your question.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks, Edwin. A few more people have shown their lovely faces, which is great. It's like the power of one doing something. I wonder if anyone else have any questions for our panel. Okay. There's a comment that you guys made around why is tech, why, you know, diversity important in tech, and that's something that I believe quite strongly on, right? Because if I don't, I won't be starting Black Valley. I wonder if we could dwell on that a little bit more, and your ideas around that. You know, you mentioned already, Maga, and you know the examples of facial recognition, not recognizing, you know, a Black person, and little things like that. I feel like, you know, do you feel like what is the best way to tackle that? Is that what Black Valley is trying to do by increasing talent within the space, or what are the best options to look at tackling that?
Well, I definitely think what you're trying to do is exactly what technology needs. We need more diverse hiring options as well. I feel that, and maybe, you know, even this talk, Philly, the things that you listed as things that one can do, I found it really difficult in hiring diverse talent. You know, I was getting sort of an echo chamber of people who were, you know, very like me, but possibly more male. And it was difficult to find the talent. So, you know, when you have a company that dedicates themselves to promoting Black people in technology, I'm constantly now going to have, okay, Black Valley is a source of people. So I'll go and talk to you, and I'll go and talk to Philly, and I'll be like, okay, where are these diverse websites? And I think, you know, and collections of people, I think that's the first start is building the network. And, you know, I'm on a journey. So when I started thinking about this, you know, I was quite into my career, and I had kind of, you know, just been, I think we go through different decades of what our main purpose is. And now, you know, you're looking more, instead of it being competitive or achievement, you're looking more for the purpose of life. I'm feeling in my 40s. So a lot more things are changing for me. So I think that what you're doing is excellent. Keep doing it. We need more of that. We need to build our community in all directions, personally, social media, you know, and actual friendships, in order to kind of diversify things. And Philly, I'm sure you'll have more ideas on it.
I've got loads going on in my head. I think for some reason my brain just went back to mentoring again. Like, it starts when people are really early on in their career, or even before that as well. So doing talks in schools to raise awareness of, you know, diversity in tech, and from a young age letting people know that this is actually a career path you can go down. Like people like you can work here just because you're not seeing yourself on posters and things like that. Growing up, I didn't see that. I've always had to basically be my own role model. Being the first woman or Black woman in most of the jobs that I've done, sometimes you just need those people to be the role models for you. And so if you can use your company to just put your name out there, go to schools, go to unis, and just raise awareness very early on, then you'll start to get more people when they're at the right point in their lives to apply. Then being a Black person in tech will start to become normal because they found out about it a lot earlier on. And of course, like Mag said, just all the collaboration with companies and hiring, like the hiring process is super important. So getting companies to really focus on putting their roles on diverse tech websites for recruitment and stuff is really useful as well. Network, collaborate. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Good point. And thank you for talking about Black Valley in such positive light. I think yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, I wasn't, prompting you guys to talk about Black Valley.
He was. He was.
Give them some notes beforehand. The other thing, I guess I could mention the company. Google has had some like bad press recently around how they've treated some of their senior employees, especially within the data team. I guess that's probably, we don't know the details of it, right? But I think, if you're on social media, on Twitter, that's probably a case of how not to. I don't know whether you guys have been following. It would be great to hear your thoughts. Again, because the topic around today is around, women in tech. How do you feel about the current thing going on? And do you have, how could you think it could have been handled differently?
I'm going to pass it to you, Philly, because I'm on a 40-day social media quiet patch. Yay.
I don't know why you did that. So if I think I know what you're talking about, are you talking about the trending hashtag of toxic tech potentially, or is that something else? I'm very behind, but there are a couple of things on my to-do list that I'm going to read up on that are literally about that same topic, even if it's different companies. So I'm not too sure what actually happened.
Okay, it's two ladies specifically within Google, like data, ethical AI, I think it's called, and I think they lead the ethical AI team. We're not quite sure the detail, but one person got fired, and they spoke about it. People within the team start defending their work and their research, saying this person is fantastic, and the next thing we know that the other person gets fired. So it's just like, okay, what's actually going on? And I mean, again, this is speculating, and this is probably not the right environment to bring on, but I just thought it might be, if you guys have been following it, it might be something good to understand, like how can a company as big as Google not get it right in this case, in my opinion. Again, it's an opinion based on what I'm reading, but I might be wrong because I don't know the details of it.
No, that's really interesting.
You go, Philly.
You go. I was going to say, just because a company is quite big and successful doesn't mean they're going to be doing D&I correctly anyway. It's probably the opposite way. Companies that are large have probably been stuck in their ways, and that's how it's got to this point. But it's quite interesting because that individual then didn't have a support system to be able to potentially speak to anyone else about the situation they were in, to get some second opinions or get support from HR to actually not just get fired, because there must be some sort of processes, but be able to fight back or have more conversations around it. And so that's really important, is when you're looking for roles or when you are working somewhere, look at the support system that's actually available, because that's really telling about a company, because it also then tells you what they can potentially get away with. So you have to think about those things when you're working in certain companies like this, for example.
Were you going to say something before, Mag?
I was just kind of going to say as well, I completely agree with everything Philly said. And also, when we're not in the situation, even, we make judgments on things that have happened. We don't exactly know what happened, but I would always err on the side of caution with regard to every company can improve on their support of each other and their diversity and inclusion and listening to people and, respecting people. And it doesn't on the outside sound like that's a very good situation. It does sound like there's been a domino effect of somebody getting fired and then someone who's protecting them getting fired. And that does sound disappointing on the outside.
Okay. I think on that note, we've got 4 minutes to go. So is there any other question? One of the main reasons for this is to network as well. So if there isn't the question, what I'm going to do, you just put people randomly into a room and literally just introduce yourself and find out about that group that you're in. So it's going to be like randomly, you know, meet one person hopefully new. So let's try and do this.
Then the group well. So in this case, it would be Black Women in Tech, and getting involved in every initiative possible so that it's not just me for like a very long time. And so the further I've gone in my career where I can actually do more on that side, I'm especially hitting management and being able to be part of hiring processes, that's when I really feel, okay, I can actually make a difference because I can get involved. Even if I'm still the only person of my type here, there's a lot that I can do to improve that. And so, yeah, I do feel like I have a responsibility to represent, and I always have. And I guess it just depends on the roles that you're doing and what can you do. If you're just starting out in your career, then you can have conversations and raise it and talk to others. And then like for me now, hiring is one of my big things, just trying to make sure that we remove all the biases that we have in companies to make sure that we make it more open and inclusive. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did, yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah, I think we should take questions. We can go maybe time for one more question if anyone has any question. Okay, I would then just leave again with maybe one final piece of advice that you would have for our audience. Just to give you a context, most of our audience are in the early stage of their career. They're looking to get into tech, and we've got quite a lot of female and some males within our cohort. What's the one piece of advice you would give to them? And that's both of you.
You go first. I went first last time.
Well, I mean, I'm stealing lots of Philly's comments she made, but be authentic, be yourself. You know, also look after yourself. You know, it's a big burden to carry, Edwin, about, you know, representing, you know, a whole group. You also are allowed to look after yourself. Be confident of your worth. Say your piece. Shine brightly. Yeah, I'm stealing all your stuff, Philly. That's my own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I can top that. I guess for me, I need to stop banging on about mentoring. But honestly, nothing has built my confidence more than being able to speak to someone who's potentially ahead in the field. That way I have someone I can relate to, someone that I can honestly speak about the things I might be going through in my early career, and just having someone that has all of that extra knowledge, all of that extra experience, someone that potentially inspires you. If you're in your early career in tech looking for someone who's got more years on you, that's really helpful, because literally the person you're talking to has been through what you're going to go through. They can help you honestly, and like I said, they can inspire you. You can see where you're going to get to if you want to go that way. So find a role model. That was a lot to say, but yeah, find a role model.
Thank you, guys. I think that's a good note to end it. Again, thank you everyone for coming to this. We do have this regular once a month, so there will be a match session. If everyone could kindly unmute, if you can, and just say thank you to our host, Mag and Philly. You guys have been amazing. We're from the Black Valley team. A clap, a Zoom clap, a Zoom presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
Thank you very much, everyone, and speak to you soon. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.